Hi, I'm Avery.
Mabel.
Okay, that's Lily,
Hello,
and
Lily.
welcome to From the Closet. We're covering Gravity Falls, season one. Uh, I actually don't know if we'll be able to provide a link to purchase it. I don't know if it's on Vudu, but I mean, if it is, I'll provide a link. If not, you can watch it on Disney Plus or Hulu. So yeah.
I don't
Um,
know why we never checked if it was on food or not.
Yeah, we probably should be checking that sort of stuff going forward, especially if we're going to be covering like Ghibli movies, because I have a feeling the vast majority of them are still not available on Vudu.
Um, Apparently it's in TV series requests on Voodoo form. I can't find it.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Maybe
Oh, actually,
maybe there'll be another link that I can provide. To some other site.
oh, there's an Amazon link.
Yeah, maybe that's what we'll provide instead. But yeah, we'll get we'll have to worry about that like after the podcast has been recorded. And even then,
Hmm.
not for like a month, because hey guys, it's literally the day after the Camp episode released on YouTube.
What do
Like,
you mean, Avery? Honestly, I was actually thinking about doing the joke of like, hey, Avery, how did you like 2022 so far?
yeah, no, for us
Yeah.
it's still 2021.
Hmm.
Nearly all of our January episodes have been recorded, but not the free movie of the month. We don't even know what it'll be yet, though it'll probably be Back to the Future Part 3, hopefully, if nothing goes wrong.
So, I want to start up talking about Gravity Falls with a bit of trivia that, as I learned, Avery didn't even know. So, when Gravity Falls Season 1 ended, they actually started making Gravity Falls shorts that they would just casually show on the Disney Channel whenever they felt like it. These being, in order, Dipper's Guide to the Unexplained, Mabel's Guide to Life, Fixin' It with Seuss, TV Shorts, and Mabel's Scrapbook.
Is that it?
Yeah,
Hmm.
they're series, short series.
So, regarding this series, I remember a couple of years ago it came out that Alex Hirsch had wanted to include a gay couple in this series, and like I hadn't sat down and watched the series like all the way through, and I
Mhm.
didn't ever just find the time to do it even after that came out. So I was just kind of always left wondering as to how that would have taken form. I think I know now. But
You don't. I know you don't because it's from one episode that's not in season 1, and it was actually background characters.
you're telling me it wasn't those cops?
Oh, I'm pretty sure it was actually more or less um that was more explored in season 2.
I also think it would have been interesting if
No, I know it.
I believe the girl's name is Glenda. I think it would have been
Oh
interesting if
yeah,
she'd been trans.
yeah. I know what articles because articles over like spread like wildfire, but it's from one specific episode on 2 background characters.
I'm not sure when this series came out, but I do know that at the time that they were first, like, at the time, gay marriage still wasn't legal in the US.
Hmm.
And it's like, Disney being a US company, everything, it was just kind of frustrating to see. It's also really, you know,
Mhm.
today it's like still shocking to me that I was alive at a time when gay marriage wasn't legal here. I
I wonder what was
was
legal in Canada.
I was still in high school and gay marriage was still illegal. It's kind of wild.
2005 is when it was legalized in Canada.
Damn, I was alive at a time when it wasn't legal in Canada. Jesus. But hey, at least Canada got with the program a decade before the US.
Let's find out when it was legal in the US.
2015.
Oh, it was actually literally a decade. Huh.
But yeah, Gravity Falls. Creator Alex Hirsch, who also voices some characters in this series, voices Bill Cipher and Stan and Seuss. Um, I couldn't have pegged Seuss, but you know, I had a suspicion that Bill Cipher and Stan were the same voice actor, and I was right about that. Um, he also voices a minor character in uh, Star versus the Forces of Evil, and then he also voices King and Hootie in the Owl House. So yeah,
Oh, and I completely forgot. It's Gravity Falls actually has a specific reference in Amphibia where there's actually a frog that looks exactly like Sans Seuss.
that's weird.
There's an entire episode based on it.
All right, I'll take your word for it. And I'm pretty sure um I haven't seen the scene in the series yet, as we're going through it because it's in season 2, but there's even a Gravity Falls reference in Rick and Morty.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
So I actually have all the episodes laid out, and even um who ran it, the storyboard, and the original air date.
Hmm.
Oh, and how many U.S. viewers by million?
Yeah, I don't think we need all of that information. But
Hmm.
just a few other things. Like I wasn't expecting Bill Cipher to actually show up until season 2. Another thing is we were watching this on Disney Plus, and I remember when Disney Plus first launched, there was a lot of controversy about there not being a symbol on Stan's hat, but it's there now. And I know it's relevant to the story somehow, something about him knowing where to stand later in a certain scene, but I don't remember that scene at all. So we'll get to that when we get to it. Like I said, I've never sat down and watched through the entire series back to back, um, but I do have a general grasp on the story.
Hmm. So, want to just go through the episodes?
Yeah, let's do that.
Forest Trapped.
Okay, is this the one with the gnomes? No, that's
Yes.
wait. Okay,
It's
yeah.
all.
So Dipper and Mabel get shipped off to Gravity Falls by their parents. Um, they are going to be staying with their great uncle Stan, who they just start calling Grunkle Stan. And
I
they're
like that name.
yeah, and actually, in Ruby, that it's not a reference within the show itself, but the fandom refers to another character in Ruby as Drunkle
Hmm.
Crow.
Interesting.
Yeah. So eventually, when we get to Ruby, that'll be something we talk about is Crow. But anyway, so they're staying with their uncle Stan, who has this business of the Mystery Shack, and all the attractions are fake, and we kind of see later that if they weren't fake, they'd be terrifying everybody, and you wouldn't be making any money.
Also, I thought about Dipper and Mabel. I think they live in California or something
Maybe.
because it says traveling up north to Gravity Falls, Oregon,
All right.
which you don't usually say the state unless you're traveling to another state.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to to decipher where Gravity Falls is in Oregon because Oregon doesn't exist.
I'm pretty sure it does, Avery.
Does it? Are you sure about that?
I do want to know how many memes were like, Oregon doesn't exist. Alex Hirsch just made it up.
Yeah, no, for the yeah, Oregon exists, I guess, but
And I live in it.
Gravity Falls doesn't. Supposedly, it was actually based on a town called Boring. So,
Good old boring Oregon.
so like it. Debatably, we could look at where Boring, Oregon is, and figure out where that is in relation to the rest of Oregon. But yeah, they're probably from California.
Ooh, I should visit.
They're probably from California, maybe even Arizona. That wouldn't surprise me.
Ooh, May, Nevada.
But yeah, so I forget everything that like leads up to it, but eventually Stan just like tells Dipper to go out into the woods and post up some signs. And so apparently some of the woods are still part of Stan's property, uh, as we'll learn later in the season, because Dipper finds a buried journal. And it has a giant
Journal number 3.
yeah, it has a giant hand on it and the number 3. And he doesn't tell Stan about it. He he doesn't tell Stan about it for quite some time, but he does tell Mabel. And yeah, so
Nobody.
shenanigans like kind of ensue, and Mabel is trying to Mabel is trying to get a boyfriend, and we get the introduction of a very well-known meme in the very first episode of "Do you like me?" Yes, definitely, absolutely.
I rigged it.
Yes, and I kind of relate to a lot of the things that both Dipper and Mabel like. I feel like I connect with both of them very well. I feel like I see aspects of myself in both of them, but then there are going to be episodes later where um, Dipper is infuriating me, but there are especially going to be episodes where Mabel infuriates me.
Yeah. And in some episodes, they feel like they learned nothing.
Yeah. And in some episodes, it feels like the writers were going for something, and I just completely disagreed with them. Particularly the Summerween episode. Like I know what the writers were going for. It just didn't jive with me. But anyway, that's pretty decently far ahead. Mabel eventually gets a boyfriend, or so she thinks, and
Dipper thinks it's a zombie.
Yeah, Dipper thinks it's a zombie. He goes to try to prove it to her, and he accidentally opens the book to the page of gnomes. Funny.
No, that definitely can't be foreshadowing.
But yeah, eventually, they reveal to Mabel that they are just a bunch of gnomes, and they want her to marry all of them and become their queen.
And Mabel said after that. So, hijinks, and then Mabel used a blowgun. No, was leaf.
A leaf blower, yeah.
And did them until they're dead.
Yeah. It was kind of funny, the way, it all played out, because, Dipper showed up and found out, oh, it's gnomes? I was way off. And, no known weaknesses, but they're, like, so tiny you can just pick them up with a shovel and toss them aside. But then they all form together into this giant gnome monster, and that's, like, scary as shit.
Though we will learn it later in this Season 2, Episode 1. There's a lot of stuff in that journal that is not visible to the naked eye.
I mean, I'm not surprised by that. Matter of fact, I think I somewhat remember it. But anyway.
Legend of the Gabblewalker.
The Gobblewonker. Yeah.
This introduces Old Man McGucket, which will become a very important episode.
Doesn't it?
Person.
Yeah. He'll become a very important person. Does this episode also introduce Seuss, or was he in episode 1? I know Wendy was in episode 1, but she wasn't very important in episode 1.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he was. We're talking about Seuss, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, Dipper talked to Seuss for a few times for advice in episode 1.
Okay. Oh yeah, I seem to remember that now, because there was like that one time where Seuss was changing a light bulb, and Dipper was like going crazy about Norman.
Yeah, that's totally a normal name.
But yeah, so in this episode, Stan wants to go fishing with Dipper and Mabel. They want to go take a picture of the Gobblewonker so that they can win a photo contest. So that Mabel can get a giant...
Dipper thought he was...
I can't remember what Dipper thought he would buy with the money, but like Mabel wanted a human-sized hamster ball.
I think Dipper just wanted money and recognition. Anyway, Dipper brought a whole lot of cameras, and by the end of the episode, most of them get destroyed.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because I think if you count the number of cameras, it comes out to more than the number that Dipper said he had, which was 17. Like, I think there's even one scene where Seuss is holding a bunch of cameras, and I think he's holding more than 17. But yeah, so they go to this island, Scuttlebutt Island, and Seuss makes a joke out of the name by covering up Scuttle.
That is so Seuss. Anyway, they find the monster, but absolute psych, the monster was not a monster, it was just Old Man McGucket.
Yeah. Of course, they still could have sent the photo in anyway, because you wouldn't be able to tell that from the picture.
But the lesson being, family.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and all this is happening. Grunkle Stan is traumatizing people.
Yeah. Like he goes up to a couple that's like literally the guy is proposing. And he goes up and tells
my ex-wife is missing me, but her aim is getting better.
And then he's like, it's funny because marriage is terrible. And I'm like, oh my God, Stan, read the fucking room. And once they come across, like once Dipper and Mabel come across the monster, there's like this whole chase scene. And what I want to know is who the fuck transports glass like that? Like, there were two people transporting glass, and, it gets shattered because, Dipper, Mabel, and Seuss, like, they speed right through it.
Now that I remember, I think there's a lot of episodes in this series that have people transporting glass.
It's weird.
Gravity Falls, the land of people randomly transporting glass.
Like, I've seen Reddit videos where people transport glass, by carrying, like, each person carries one end of it, and eventually the glass shatters in some type of way. But I've never seen that kind of shit done over water. Of course, I have seen this episode before. And, like, I'm just going to call it what it is. Like, at least in the grand scope of season 1, it does feel a bit like filler. But, like, it's entertaining. I was talking to Lily before this podcast. I do think this season has entirely too much filler. It's entertaining filler, at least, but, like, sometimes I just want the plot to continue forward, and it's not doing it, and I'm, like, getting hit with 5 episodes of filler in a row. Like,
Summerween should be enjoyed.
Summerween is one that I can understand. Summerween is one that I can absolutely understand and completely justify it being there, because, like, it was a Halloween special, but, they wanted to, they couldn't make it, like, officially a Halloween special because the series was supposed to take place in the summer. So,
I mean, Camp made it literally snow in summer.
I don't think Camp was ever specifically stated to be exclusively a summer camp.
It is.
I mean, that kind of just comes down to the writing. Camp is a comedy, so they can get away with plot holes like that because nobody cares about the plot.
Also, Gravity Falls is a weird town. Look, if you're not expecting it to do weird things like celebrate Halloween twice, and you're just crazy.
But
Anyway, moving on
anyway,
to wax episode.
oh god, the wax one. So yeah, one of the wax
Actually, wait,
statues
no.
melts. I can't
Before
remember. Oh wait, it was Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln melts. And Mabel's like, all
and
right,
then
fine, I'll make a wax figure of Stan. But then it turns out, the wax figures are actually cursed to come alive when the moon is waxing. And they chop the head off of the wax Stan. Stan is a little, too attached. He wants, to have a memorial service and everything.
it's almost like it's foreshadowing. What? It's not foreshadowing anything.
I mean, I know,
You didn't see
what
anything.
you're saying, it's foreshadowing, but to me, it doesn't feel like it's foreshadowing. Just honestly. Oh, before we continue any further, there was a scene in episode 1 where, it was in the credits where Stan punches in a code into a vending machine and it, slides out and there's a, hidden path behind it. And he pulls the vending machine back in place. That'll come into play later. Anyway, back to this wax one. The wax figures were trying to kill Stan, but they got the wax Stan instead. And they come to life during the funeral service and try to kill Dipper and Mabel, and shenanigans ensue and they lose.
That's about it.
Yeah, that's...
But it also has my favorite moment. It's like where Mabel and Wendy were just like, he probably Stan probably bribed everyone. He bribed me.
Oh, yeah. That it's kind of funny that you have to bribe your own employees.
I mean, that is Stan.
Also, something else I left out of the first episode. At the end of the episode, Stan is like, hey, just take one item from the gift shop on the house. Dipper picks a hat, which he'll wear throughout the entire series. And Mabel picks a grappling hook, which actually won't come back into play.
Grappling hook.
Actually, that wasn't at the end of the episode. Wait, yes, it was. It was. Okay. The grappling hook won't come into play until, I want to say it was either the season finale or the episode before the season finale.
Season finale.
Yeah.
And will definitely come more uses in season 2.
Good, because it was kind of disappointing.
Grappling hook.
It is kind of a little bit disappointing to not see that grappling hook used more.
I do believe that in shots you can see the grappling hook in their room. That's a theory. I'd have to go back and rewatch all the episodes again.
So what's
specifically looking for it?
What's our next episode?
Ooh, we get into the season 1 villain.
Oh, so we meet Gideon.
Little old me.
Okay, so bottom line, the whole situation with Gideon is he's pretending to be a psychic, kind of talks Mabel into going out on a date with him. She eventually agrees reluctantly, and he just kind of falls hard, and Mabel tries to let him down, and it, doesn't quite work well. So she gets Dipper to go break up with him for her. That doesn't turn out well.
So, I actually want to say the episode description on the wiki. Dipper and Mabel meet an intriguing new neighbor, a psychotic child fraud named Lil Gideon.
That's a pretty accurate description, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, essentially Mabel, shows up while Gideon is attacking Dipper and is like, no, screw you. Not only can we not be boyfriend and girlfriend, we can't even be friends because you attacked my brother. And
now this is not when we see the biggest thing about Gideon, but at the end of the episode we do actually see he's not gonna be one and done character.
We didn't see his journal in this episode, did we?
I do not believe so.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that I don't have more to say about this episode, considering it's like a not filler episode, but also like not too much happened. They were just kind of establishing Gideon
Mhm.
and establishing
Well, I mean,
and establishing a hatred between Gideon and the Pines family.
well, okay. A lot of these episodes are not truly filler if you look at what they establish. Episode 2, The Gallwalker, that basically sets up Old Man McGucket, and he will become very useful in Season 2.
I guess for me, it's just like Avatar: The Last Airbender used its filler a lot better than what Gravity Falls tends to do.
Here's a correlation. Gravity Falls even sets it up as the series that almost like a sitcom, almost, because the events of the last episode don't usually take place, don't usually matter in the next episode. That's rare, as in Last Airbender,
Yeah,
the way that they did the show, it always does.
and I guess with all the shit that we saw of the Owl House this year, and by this year for you guys it will have been last year. I guess with all that shit, it's kind of maybe a little bit of a blessing in disguise that Gravity Falls wasn't as serialized as I kind of want it to be, because it probably just would have gotten completely canceled otherwise. But wasn't it supposed to be 3 seasons?
No, I know that. Gravity Falls, in fact, I think Disney really wanted there to be 3 seasons. Alex Hirsch said no.
Okay. For some reason, I thought I remembered the story was supposed to last for 3 seasons, and all the stuff that happened at the end of season 2 was supposed to happen at the end of season 3, but it got cut short. But now that you mention it, that I do remember Disney saying that they wanted more. So yeah, 2 seasons was right.
Yeah, Alex Hirsch knew what he wanted and cut out before, it got stale.
Yeah. Um, So yeah, I wish I had more to say about this Gideon episode, but I really don't. Because aside from setting up, the main villain of season 1 and setting up the hatred between him and the Pines family, there's not really much else to say. So what's our next episode?
Let me actually look at all the episodes. Yeah, I think the next episode would be my least favorite episode.
Oh, what's that? I don't know if I've picked out a least
Uh,
favorite episode.
Dipper attempts to woo Wendy by lying about his age. It's the,
Yeah, I'm well
where
aware.
Dipper.
That episode is very weird. Um, the whole technically a teenager line is kind of a odd one to me, because it's like, no, it's not technically, you are a teenager. But the problem is nobody gives a shit. Like, the other teenagers don't give a shit about whether you're a teenager or not until you're like 14 minimum. If you're 13, they don't care. You're probably not going to be in their friend group.
Well, I mean, Dipper and Mabel are 12.
Yeah, they are 12. I know that.
Yeah.
Because there's like a whole conversation about it at the beginning of the episode, and then later Dipper will admit to being 12. But yeah, so they go to this haunted grocery store. Mabel gets into some banned candy, and Dipper's like, "Oh, maybe it's banned for a reason." I don't know if it's like hallucinogenics or just the fact that the candy's old, but Mabel goes a bit nuts.
Those are some pretty powerful hallucinations.
Yes. Um, and a lot of weird shenanigans ensue because the hotel. I said hotel. Why? Because the convenience store is actually haunted by the ghosts of the owners, who supposedly had a heart attack from listening to rap music. Like, these are the most boomer antagonists I've ever seen. Like, good grief.
And this sets up Dipper's weird obsession with Wendy.
Yeah, it does that. There will be a scene in season 2 that I get really uncomfortable with regarding Dipper and Wendy.
I mean, it could have been worse. I've seen it.
But yeah, I mean, it kind of, you know, guys get crushes on like girls who are a bit older all the time. Like, I'm not surprised by that. And I mean, 3 years isn't even that big of an age difference, but it is when you're 15. Um, so like there is a whole norm of like, it's only weird when it's a bigger age gap than half your age plus 7.
Though I think it's the real thing is that he's 12.
Yeah, like he's 12. He doesn't really like his voice still cracks, and there's an episode about that later. Well, no, not an entire episode about that. A story contained within an episode about that.
Oh yeah, Gravity Falls, I think actually has two episodes of just self-contained stories.
Kind of reminds me of Tales of Ba Sing Se, except not as sad.
Anyway, are we ready to move on to the next episode?
Yeah, because I really don't want to linger on this episode too much longer because this episode's just not very great.
Yeah. Anyway, Dipper punches something. I don't know. Dipper versus manliness.
Oh god, this episode.
Actually, interesting.
What?
Wait, let me go back.
Go back to what?
Do you know, Dipper versus manliness was not written by Alex Hirsch.
Alright.
Now you know.
I'm not too surprised. The Manitar is kind of a weird case. So the whole thing is like, what is a man? And like, obviously a man is just somebody who identifies as a man. But, okay, so there's a lot of like, Dipper has this weird warped perception of what a man is, and the Manitars kind of feed this perception a bit, and eventually they ask him to do something that he knows isn't right, so he doesn't do it. Stands up to them. Stands up to them, and then later in the episode, his uncle's like, "Hey, yeah, you were your own man, and you stuck to what was right, even though nobody agreed with you."
With this episode, basically, like, Dipper wanted strength, and Dipper found strength. The strength within himself.
And also,
then he grew chest hair.
Also, meanwhile, while all this is going on, Mabel is trying to set Dipper up with Dipper. Ew. Mabel is trying to set Stan up with Lazy Susan.
Oh my god! I almost forgot the B plot in the last episode, so I'm gonna go back to that.
Yeah, but
where Stan is up late at night watching old, boring, black and white movies. I may be a duchess, but I'm also a woman.
Yeah, it was a whole weird thing where he couldn't find the remote, but he was too lazy to get up, so he accidentally got invested, then got mad at the end and threw the TV out the window.
You had your chance to continually you.
Yeah, but the B plot to this episode is kind of one that's interesting, a little bit interesting to me, more so than the A plot, I think. Primarily because at the end, we see that, sometimes when you don't approach somebody that you have feelings for, you end up dodging a bullet. And I bet this is a bullet that Stan wishes he'd dodged. I mean, it's not like a tactical nuke, more like a plastic BB.
More like a Nerf gun.
Either way, still unpleasant.
Nerf gun.
Either way, still unpleasant because she is a bit obsessive.
I mean,
but in a tame PG way.
I mean, those Nerf guns these days, they make them strong.
But
anyway, we're done with this episode. Yeah. On to Double Dipper.
Oh god, this is the copier episode, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, Dipper kind of just goes a little crazy. There's a party at the Mystery Shack. He wants to dance with Wendy, but he keeps getting in his own way. He's made this really long list, and he's following it to a T. he creates copies of himself so he can be in two places at once, because earlier in the episode they found a copier that can somehow create life, like actual living copies of human beings. And eventually he's created so many copies of himself, and like they even make a joke about how, there's the cliche of um, clones betraying each other and shit. And
We all knew that was a lie.
yeah, we all knew it was going to happen. I will say it
And
is
then in the end,
it is kind of funny at the end when Dipper and Dipper number 2, who they've nicknamed Tyrone. Also later, it's interesting. I do want to talk about this now before I forget it, because I am probably going to forget it when that episode comes. It's revealed that Dipper isn't actually Dipper's name, but it's a nickname. Yeah, like when he shows his birthmark to Wendy that's in the
yeah.
shape of a dipper, she says, "That's how you got your nickname. I thought your parents just
Mhm.
hated you." Like, she specifically says nickname. And I was like, oh, that's weird.
And you'll never know Dipper's actual name.
Yeah.
No, actually, the only place where you'll know Dipper's name is in the Journal Number 3 book that they sold.
Does it actually say it in there?
Yeah, actually, let me actually Google it.
Yeah, that's interesting, because like I
Jason.
didn't think they revealed it during the show, or I would have heard about it.
The hell? No. I look up Dipper's real name. I got his freaking voice actor.
That's kind of funny. Um, but yeah. So regarding this episode,
Mason.
What?
Mason Pines.
Mason. That's not what I would have expected. But
Oh, Macer Dipper Pines. Apparently, it's his. Maybe his Dipper is also his middle name.
well, is Dipper in quotes?
Dipper. See, in one section it is in quotes, and in another section it's not.
Okay, I mean, like they specifically said in the show that Dipper was a nickname, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with his name is Mason Pines. We
Yeah.
don't know his middle name, and Dipper is a nickname, because that's sort of what we've established here. But anyway, in this episode,
Gravity Falls Journal 3.
Yeah.
If I didn't say it before, Gravity Falls Season 3, released by Disney Book Group, revealed that.
But yeah, in this episode, Dipper finally, comes to realize that this list is stupid, and he's like already got a perfect moment. He can ask Wendy to dance as soon as she comes out of the bathroom. But everything, goes to shit because the clones show up and they all turn on each other, and eventually Dipper destroys most of them with the sprinkler system, but Tyrone is still alive. And they go to fighting, but then they both realize that Wendy is being, having a move made on her by Robbie, and it's too late. The moment is gone.
Oh, and then they both drink, and
they both drink a soda,
that's
and
actually kind of horrifying. Just seeing
it's horrifying in a funny way.
Yeah.
Also, since they're up on the roof of the Mystery Shack, I do want to talk about how kind of funny it is that the S in Shack keeps falling off. So it says Mystery Hack, and you see it's funny because Stan is a fraud. But like in his business, he kind of has to be a fraud, but he takes it to a bit of an extreme.
Tourist traps.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's fraud in other ways as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because we learned that, anyway. Later, foreshadow report, we will learn that, he knows more about the weirdness of Gravity Falls than he's letting on.
Anyway, but we also, we don't have to discuss the B plot in its entirety, but we do have to mention one specific character. Pacifica Northwest.
I do actually want to discuss the B plot because I almost forgot it existed, but it is kind of important. Okay, so we have ooh. Okay, so we get introduced to Glenda, some other girl whose name I don't remember, and Pacifica Northwest, who is supposedly the granddaughter of the founder. Supposedly. And they have a like popularity contest at the party to determine who's going to get this crown. Mabel is the only person who competes against her, and she ends up singing like this really weird parody of Don't Stop Believin', which is hilarious. And loses because Pacifica bribes one person to clap for her.
Yeah, that's Pacifica.
Yeah. But yeah, that's about it for this episode.
Pacifica will become a reoccurring character.
Yeah, we'll see her later this season.
Episode.
Yeah, we'll see her later this season, and we'll probably see more of her in season 2. Next episode.
Gravity Falls. Yeah. The very next episode. On the annual Pioneer of Gravity Falls.
Oh dear. Okay, so we have this really awkward tradition of Pioneer Day where they celebrate the founding of Gravity Falls. They think it's Pacifica's everyone thinks it's Pacifica's grandfather. This episode, we kind of see the cops being more competent than they usually are in trying to track down Dipper and Mabel, who are trying to uncover a conspiracy theory. We're not a theory, a conspiracy about, about Pacifica's grandfather not actually being the founder of Gravity Falls. And it's really shockingly easy for them. It's really shockingly easy for them to figure it out.
Well, I mean, not exactly. Because one false move from Dipper, and that map was gonzo. Of course, this was Mabel's time to just do random things and have it all work out.
Yeah.
That's the entire thing of the episode.
That's kind of what I mean of like it being a little bit too easy.
But, I mean, as we later learned, the reason why, it was an entire cover-up is not because, the cops really got bribed by this one person. Yes, the real founder was a nutcase.
Yeah.
And the president.
The 8th and a half president. And then, there's briefly this, thing near the end of the episode where they're like, oh, he never signed an official resignation, so that means legally he's still the president. No, it doesn't. It doesn't matter if he didn't sign an official resignation. After 4 years, legally, he would not be the president anymore. And it's been over 100 years.
Though, I mean, I don't think that they would really want to argue after he said go take a vacation.
Fair point. It is just kind of a weird, thing I noticed. And there will be some other, particular things with law that I'll get into later that are just like, I'm not going to get too deep, but it's just kind of minor things that are like, yeah, it definitely doesn't work that way.
And then Mabel was just like, yeah, I learned something from this adventure. And Dipper was like, yeah, I didn't learn a thing. And runs up to Pacifica's like, your entire
family is a lie, and then he gives her the proof.
Deal with it.
And we don't get to see the fallout from that this season, at least. I assume I think I remember that we see the fallout from that in season 2, because I think there's an episode where foreshadow report, where Dipper.
I know it's in season 2. Look, I know it's in season 2, but like it's already been heavily memed, so I'm just gonna say it. Yeah, I forgot what Dipper exactly said, but I'm not jealously talking. I don't even say that to her face. Dipper, I need your help. I hate you. No, you're the worst. Slams door.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I was saying that I think there's this episode where Dipper and Mabel have to team up with um, Pacifica to deal with like a ghost inside of her house. I think.
Yeah, that's what it is, but that's a few episodes and even a few more um freaking annoying episodes from Pacifica, like the golf one. But that's not this episode,
Yeah. Okay.
not season.
So yeah, what's our next episode on our list?
No, we can't forget the meme. This is worthless. It's less than worthless.
Oh yeah, the negative $12 bill.
And here is everyone's favorite episode. Oh my god, I forgot his one. The episode description should Waddles.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised it took us so long to get to Waddles, considering he'd be a staple, um, like going forward, and like even like all of season 2, he was in most of the episodes of the series, and it's like, what are we on? Like episode 10? No, not 10. This is not episode 10. Episode 10 is the fighting game episode.
Yes, episode 9.
Okay. So yeah,
Anyway,
Dipper's trying to, Dipper's trying to form a relationship with Wendy. Mabel's trying to win a pig. We have, every time Mabel wins the pig, Dipper loses his chance to ask out Wendy, and, vice versa. Time travel shenanigans ensue, because they steal a time machine off of a time traveler, and it looks like a tape measure.
Lyndon Blandon.
I think it's kind of interesting with this character because, like, if you actually go back and watch the previous 8 episodes, you can find him in the background of all of them.
I feel like I knew that at some point.
But yeah, because, like, Dipper and Mabel travel through time and they create a lot of time anomalies. And at the end, Lyndon Blandon is punished by the time baby, and Dipper eventually, gives up. He settles on the fact that, he's not going to be able to ask out Wendy, and like his sister would be too upset if she lost Waddles. I will say one complaint I do have is that it does not make sense for Mabel to remember anything about the time travel at the end of the episode because Dipper time travels by himself. So that should have reset everything, including Mabel's memories. But
honestly, at this point, I'm just gonna say that it's a show meant for kids, and they don't explore time traveling is not the main gimmick of the show.
Yeah.
If it was, then I'd have a bigger deal about that.
Yeah, it'd be a bigger deal. It's a plot hole in one episode that's not even really that too important.
Time traveling is counting 3 episodes, and that's counting both seasons.
But yeah, like it is a plot hole, but it's a minor plot hole. It's self-contained within this episode. But yeah, she definitely should not remember. Anyway, next episode is the fighting game episode. Yeah. Dipper is upset about, Wendy and Robbie being together. Robbie's kind of obsessive. But Wendy's just like, kind of chilling. Also, the other problem with Robbie is that he doesn't listen to the things that she is saying. So, like, she says that she's going to be going camping for 3 days, and he doesn't pay attention. So he completely misses that little detail and shows up at the Mystery Shack looking for her, while she's...
Dipper calls him out on it, though.
Yeah, Dipper calls him out on it. And also, like, why is he showing up at her work trying to get her to leave? That's just, like, you don't do that. But anyway,
I mean,
Like Dipper calls him out on it. He's like, okay, we'll fight, and then Dipper's like, later Dipper's like, oh, I don't want to fight him. Let me discover this little cheat code written on the side of this arcade machine and bring what's basically Ryu out of the machine. Like, clearly, that character was 100% Ryu. Like, when he comes out into the real world, he even does the Tatsumaki Senpu Kyaku. And later, he'll do a move that is quite literally the Hadoken. Although, interestingly, I don't think he ever did a Shoryuken.
Anyway, the longest story short,
Dipper lies to the character
he
and says that Robbie killed his father. We get to the fight, and the character is beating the shit out of Robbie, and Dipper eventually comes clean, and then the character beats the shit out of Dipper.
And then lost, and then game over.
Yeah. And then Wendy comes back, and for a second, she thinks Dipper and Robbie were fighting.
It's like, what, fighting? No, never do that.
And then, okay, we get this thing that actually kind of annoys me a little bit. We have the whole, we have to learn to just hate each other in secret, like what girls do.
But Mabel does have a point.
Girls do very much not keep it secret a lot of the time. Some of the time, the hatred is kept secret with girls. But I have seen girls be at each other's throats.
So I'm just getting flashbacks from another series.
What series?
Of course, it's Amphibia.
Well, also, the Owl House too, and a little bit of the Owl House too, because we have that one episode of the Owl House where there's a very clear hatred between Luz and Basha, and it's not kept like a secret or anything.
So I can't actually say because Avery hasn't watched Amphibia, so I'm just gonna say the episode name: True Colors. If you know, you know.
I want to say that True Colors is also the name of an episode of the Owl House. I could be wrong, but anyway, we're getting off track. Let's keep going. Our next episode, episode 11, what is it?
Little Dipper.
Is this the one where Dipper makes such a stupid big deal over Mabel being 1 millimeter taller than him?
Yes.
Yeah.
They both make a big deal about it, but Dipper has a magical book that helps him get magical things.
Yeah, he gets a magical book. He basically ingeniously finds he finds this crystal in the forest and he creates a flashlight out of it that he can switch. He's able to shrink and grow things kind of like Ant-Man.
I believe it was this episode that actually was Stan won $1 million. All he had to do was sign this contract. Suck a lemon, little man. Anyway,
and there's
another Gideon Grey episode.
Yeah, it's another Gideon episode because, a lot of shenanigans ensue. Eventually, Gideon manages to steal the flashlight and shrinks Dipper and Mabel, suspects that Dipper might have the journal, but then completely forgets about that in a later episode. Because, later on in the episode, we'll discover that Gideon has journal number 2.
And then he'll discover that Dipper has journal number 3.
Yeah, but
making mass confusion on where the first one is.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. But, at the same time, it seems a little bit weird to me that he just didn't... it is a little bit weird that, his suspicion of Dipper having a journal was completely, discarded when that later episode comes.
Well, I actually think it was the fact that Dipper had the journal on him. Because that's the entire reason why you wanted to buy the Mystery Shack, so he could find the journal. But the journal was on Dipper.
Yeah, I just think it's a little bit of a little bit
I
weird that
think
he
that's what
wouldn't
it is.
search him. Like even if that was the suspicion, it's a little bit weird that he wouldn't think to do that.
Yeah, because he was definitely looking for that journal before he got it, because he was digging holes in the property.
Yeah. Anyway, eventually, Dipper and Mabel and Seuss, because eventually Gideon shrinks Seuss too. Um,
And then they forget about Seuss.
yeah. That's kind of the thing a lot throughout the series is they forget Seuss, and sometimes in the next episode he's completely reset, or sometimes they do it in the credits.
Yeah, Gravity Falls loves using their credit scenes
Yeah, they
to
do.
its fullest potential.
They really do. But yeah. So Dipper, Mabel, and Seuss
I completely
eventually
forgot.
Dipper, Mabel, and Seuss eventually outsmart Gideon, and they are able to grow themselves back to normal height. And there's this whole sibling rivalry thing where Dipper kind of doesn't let Mabel win at anything, and he always rubs it in her face. And they reveal that Mabel's making such a big deal out of the height thing because she's finally winning at something for once. So Dipper just when they grow, when Dipper grows them back to their normal heights, he leaves that 1 millimeter alone. Character growth. But yeah. You said you completely forgot something?
Every credit scene has a cipher.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Episode 1 was Welcome to Gravity Falls. Episode 2 was Return to Butt Island. Headhunters, episode 3 was He's Still in the Vents. Selah, Why Won't You Call Me? Onwards, Oshama. Dable versus Manliness. Miss Carlson will be out for a week. Mr. Epstein will sustain. Weird. Double Dipper is Paper Jan Dipper says, and it's a bunch of weird random letters. E. Perlis Tremblay, the president.
Yeah.
Time Traveling Pig. Not H.G. Wells approved. Fight Fighters. Sorry, Dipper, but your Wendy is in another castle.
Oh my god. And that's clearly a reference to the original Super Mario Bros.
Little Dipper, the invisible wizard is watching. And are we done with Little Dipper or?
Yeah. What's our next episode?
Summerween.
Okay, what's our episode number? Because we are over at an hour now.
12.
Oh, great. We still got quite a bit to go through. Summerween, essentially, Seuss warns... okay, so Gravity Falls has a tradition of celebrating Halloween twice. This is supposed to be the Halloween special, but because it's the middle of summer, they wanted to do something and still have it be summer. So Gravity Falls celebrates Halloween twice. And the one in the summer they call Summerween. Seuss warns Dipper about the Summerween trickster, who, will attack kids who don't have the Summerween spirit or whatever. Mabel wants to, wear matching twin costumes and go trick-or-treating. Dipper feels like he's getting a little too old for that and wants to go to a party with Wendy instead. And this is an episode where I feel like, they're trying to make Dipper out to be, sort of the bad guy. But I actually don't agree. Kids, they grow at different rates. And if Dipper wants to stop trick-or-treating, he should be allowed to stop trick-or-treating. Mabel's the one who, like, kind of, just gets all upset about it and doesn't even try to hear his perspective. She just, gets pissed off. And the only reason Dipper ends up going trick-or-treating is because the Summerwing trickster shows up and he's like, oh yeah, get 500 pieces of candy or die. So yeah, like Dipper has to help with getting the 500 pieces of candy. And then, completely fucks it up because he's trying to play this facade of not trick-or-treating and when Wendy shows up. And Mabel overhears everything, gets mad, and the trickster shows up and turns out he's made of, like, fight scene ensues, turns out he's made of quote-unquote loser candy. Which, can I say, I resent the idea that candy corn is a loser candy, because I fucking love candy corn.
I knew there was another cipher, but
I will say I did notice that...
you keep going.
Yeah, I will say, speaking of cipher, I did notice that the window in the attic that Dipper and Mabel sleep in is triangle shaped. But anyway, Seuss ends up eating the trickster alive. Because the trickster's made up of all the candy that children threw away. Anyway, yeah, I don't like this episode very much. I understand why it exists because it's a Halloween special. It is filler, but it's understandable filler because Halloween. But at the same time, I don't like this episode because of the dynamic between Dipper and Mabel this episode.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look up this episode. So brought to you by a homework, the candy.
Okay. What's our next episode? Episode 13.
Boss Mabel.
Oh, okay. So in this episode, Stan is getting a little bit too pushy as, boss of the Mystery Shack. Mabel kind of takes a stand, and eventually, Stan and Mabel make a bet that she can't make more money than him while he's on vacation. Of course, Stan is going to go and, be on a game show on his vacation.
That is Stan.
Yeah. And he's surprisingly pretty good at the game show. Mabel is a doormat as a boss, and basically the employees kind of walk all over her. Of course, Mabel was right in the beginning, like Stan was being a little bit too pushy, but the correct answer was somewhere in between Mabel and Stan. But eventually, Mabel realizes how hard it is, being boss, and she basically kind of almost becomes Stan in a way, and and then there's the whole thing of the weird creature that Dipper brings in, where if you look into its eyes, you can see your worst nightmare, and they have to fight it off, and they defeat it by making it see its own eyes in a mirror.
That's definitely not a reference to Everything Ever.
But yeah, so they have to fix up the shack and everything, and Mabel does make quite a bit of money. But after all the repairs and stuff, it only comes out to $1. But plot twist, Stan completely fucks everything up on the game show, and he's won a substantial amount of money, bets it all on a double for nothing, and loses because he won't say the word please.
Again, that's entirely Stan.
Yeah.
Stan.
So Mabel wins the bet, and we get the Stan Wrong song, which is kind of funny.
And I was wrong, singing the Stan Wrong song.
And knowing what I know about Stan in season 2, I'm kind of amazed with the amount of stuff that he puts up with while he's still got his whole thing going on that he's trying to do. I'm not going to get too deep into it because that is massive spoilers for season 2, and people could be here having only seen season 1.
Though I will have to admit that this episode concept has basically been used in every TV show almost ever.
Yeah.
But I think again, why do I keep going to Amphibia? But the episode was used in Amphibia, and I think it was season 1. So you want F it. Hoppadiah Planter was a tyrant.
I will say
Anyway,
this: we will get to Amphibia eventually on this show, but it is a very distant one. We'll get to it. But by the time we get
I'll
by the time we get to it, the show may already have like run its full course and ended.
yeah, I will. At the very least, I will try to use all the powers I can to get it as quick as possible. But possible is not that good.
Yeah, like there's already so much we're going to cover that like we're trying to narrow down the list of series that we're going to cover until
I'm still.
before we start adding more.
I'm still trying to work an exception, but I don't think that'll give.
Yeah, no, I'm not giving on that. Anyway, next episode.
Oh yeah, and let's go with Heavy. Heavy is the head that wears the fez. That's the that's the cipher.
Oh, okay.
Bottomless Pit.
Okay, yeah, the Bottomless Pit is essentially kind of like the Tales of Ba Sing Se in that it's, an episode made up of smaller stories. And like the stories are fake, so I don't really want to spend too much time on them. Like they didn't.
Well,
They
except the
didn't.
last one.
Yeah, except the last one. The last one is like actually true. I can't remember what like. I do remember Mabel had something and she wanted to get rid of it, so she threw it in the bottomless pit. But I can't remember exactly the details of that story.
Oh, that story was Stan was lying, so
Okay, yeah, it was
Mabel
the
stole Dipper's book.
Yeah, it was the truth dentures or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, essentially at the beginning of the episode, Stan like takes them to a bottomless pit, which we don't ever see again, I don't think. Even though it's like right outdoor of the mystery shack, like you can see the mystery shack in the background. And Dipper is like pointing out how, the pit can't be bottomless, that's not possible. But it turns out there's like a wormhole that like will send them back out of the top of it. So yeah, Mabel, like they tell each other stories while they're falling because they got nothing else to do. And the stories are somewhat entertaining, but like unlike with the Tales of Ba Sing Se, the stories aren't actually true except for the very last one with Mabel. And they're like, yeah, we know that story. We literally just lived it. But yeah, not really too much to say about this episode. Like this episode, like is the definition of filler, I guess.
So I guess the next episode, which is oh right, because apparently I'm doing this now. Next up, Footbot 2, Grunkle's Grievance.
What?
The Deep End.
Okay, the deep
that's
end.
the cipher.
Oh, okay. The deep end. I believe that's the episode where Mabel's going crazy over a mermaid, and Dipper is. There's a whole Dipper Wendy shipping thing going on this episode too. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. Funnily enough, I know for a fact I saw this episode after I saw Weird Mageddon. Because, I mean, like, what?
Okay.
I never sat through and watched the entire series in order, so, like, I was only catching episodes as they'd appear on TV. But, anyway. Mermando the Merman, we have a whole Gideon versus Stan thing this episode, which really isn't that important. Like, they're fighting over a pool chair. But yeah, like uh, somebody took somebody. Okay, yeah. Mabel destroys a pool skimmer so that she can get in and talk with Mermando the merman. And we get this whole thing about how he misses his family, and we like figure out like exactly how he ended up in the pool in the first place. It is kind of wild. It's also kind of funny how like Mabel doesn't recognize the language he's speaking, like a few words of as Spanish. It's almost like Mabel's the typical American. And yeah, like it's
Or ignorant. Or just Mabel. Mabel is Mabel.
yeah.
Hmm.
Um so we're experiencing a little bit of a technical difficulty. So we're both going to pause in 3, 2, 1. All right, and we're back.
And in that time, I was managed to confirm something to myself. In the very start of this episode, they said it is opening week, and have it just be open. There is someone in consolidation for the rest of their life, and a freaking merman, came into the pool.
You mean solitary?
Yeah. Um. So,
Pool jail.
um, like they made this pool seem a lot older than what they just announced it being opening week.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how they did that. But yeah, Mabel's going crazy over this merman. Dipper's going crazy over Wendy. Um, but like, kind of eventually, Dipper realizes that like this isn't gonna be Dipper's only shot with Wendy. So like, he eventually sacrifices his job as assistant lifeguard so that so that Mermando can see his family again. And then like at the end of the episode, um, Mabel's revealing all the different boyfriends she's had, and Dipper's like, I don't remember the vampires, and Mabel's like, I don't tell you everything. And Mermando eventually kisses Mabel, and that's her first kiss. And pretty much the end of the
Um,
episode, Dipper and Wendy get fired from the pool.
so for Differ X Wendy, I actually found the perfect Amphibia quote. Kurt the Crow says this will all end in tears.
You're talking about Amphibia a little too much during this episode.
Okay, but to be fair, it's also a Disney property.
It is, but anyway,
Also,
next episode, we do have to,
you can actually, yeah,
we do have to get
right, but
through
you can
this
also
because
make an argument.
people's attention spans are only so long, and we are definitely over an hour.
Jesus, my attention span isn't that long.
Yeah,
Um, Carpet Diem. Wait,
this is the
hold
body
up.
swap episode, isn't it?
Is this it? No. When was Camp Camp released?
2016.
Yeah, it couldn't be. Then what was that referencing?
It was referencing a I believe it's Latin expression, carpe diem, which means seize the day.
Ah, okay then.
Yeah. So, they're both making the same reference. Anyway, this is the body swap episode, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Dipper swaps bodies with Mabel, and they're trying to, like, sabotage each other in getting this new room that they discovered, which has a rug that can swap their bodies. Because, like, they're having a sibling fight because Mabel is being a little bit ridiculous with her sleepovers, but that's not really the real reason. The real reason is Dipper feels left out, which actually makes me a little bit more annoyed because they didn't need that. Because Mabel was being a bit ridiculous with, like, the sleepovers.
As far as I could tell, that was literally the first one. and then Dipper just like, if it was the first one, I can understand like Dipper, um, maybe be a bit over dramatic.
Yeah, but then they return the very next night for another one, and it's sort of implied that this is happened multiple times because he says that you're having your friends over every single night.
That is true.
Yeah. Mabel was being a bit
Though Dipper
ridiculous
also
and
did him.
like not willing to compromise with Dipper whatsoever. And there is this mention of Dipper clicking the pen at night and that keeping Mabel up. Which, to be fair, Dipper doesn't, hear her side of it at all either. Like it.
Okay, it's like the How to Train Your Dragon movie, which I was gonna mention in the next one, but it was like, oh, he doesn't listen to me, and Copper's like, yeah, it runs in the family.
Yeah, it's like neither one of them are listening to the other, and they really did it. Like the whole thing of Dipper feeling left out was not needed.
Hey, we now let's get to Grumpy's stand. Fight, fight, fight.
Yeah, like he's encouraging the fighting, and he's like, "Oh, I'm a good uncle." It's like, no, you're not.
I mean, he's literally a scammer. I don't know why you really do not expect anything less of him.
Yeah. Also, there's this whole, funny B plot of, Sue's having swapped bodies with Waddles. Eventually, the cops show up. Glinda and the other girl are there as well, and like everybody's switching bodies, and it's crazy. And by the end, everybody's reset, and they both decide that, like, Dipper officially gets the room, but Dipper decides that, later he just doesn't want it and moves back in with Mabel.
And the room is officially gone to Seuss.
Oh, yeah.
Who really desperately needed it.
Yeah. But it's more of a break room and not like a bedroom, I think, because Seuss lives somewhere else, as we finally see where he lives later.
Mm-hmm. Though, this episode actually does have like foreshadowing that, to my knowledge, no one actually picked up on when it was originally airing. There was another scene, like there's a flashback to the writer, like grab whoever's writing the journals, and you can see a prism, a light from a prism, and the same prism appears in that room. The creator actually confirmed that was supposed to be foreshadowing.
Yeah, it's almost like Stan wrote the journals. Wink. Because I'm technically right, but I'm not technically right. And I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to say everything because it's a spoiler. But Lily knows what I mean, and those of you who have seen those of you who have seen the entire series know what I mean. But what's our next episode?
So we have Dipper being rife for the entire episode. Sorry, I mean Boy Craze.
Oh, is this the boy band episode?
Yeah, where Dipper ridicules boy bands in the first moment of the show.
Yeah, and he's
in the episode.
He's entirely right. To be fair, and then this is an episode where I'm really annoyed with Mabel again because she does this whole thing where she like tries to keep the like. There's really not much to say about this episode. I'm not even going to summarize the plot. But Mabel really annoys me with like trying to keep the boy band hostage after it's actually safe for them to go out. And eventually they are the ones that end up convincing her to let them leave.
Yeah, I will admit that Dipper and Mabel do like some very annoying things, but Mabel does them more and does them at the complete end of the series where it matters because that's last impressions.
Oh yeah, I am going to roast the hell out of Mabel when we get to season 2. Just don't you worry about that. I am definitely going to have complaints when we get there.
Yeah. if there's one thing I will is like Gravity Falls is a really good series, but my god, the characters learn nothing.
Yeah, that's the problem. And this is why when however infrequently the debate gets brought up of if Gravity Falls is better than Avatar: The Last Airbender, I will always say Avatar takes it. Not just for nostalgia,
Mm.
but because the characters actually learn in Avatar. And also Avatar has far less filler.
Again, I don't agree that more filler equals bad.
It can really bog down a show. Like Inuyasha is an excellent example of a show that was so bogged down by filler that like it just made it not as good as it could have been as a result. But at the same time, like I said earlier, like after all the shit we saw with the Owl House in 2021, I mean, maybe it is a blessing in disguise that it had as much filler as it did. But anyway, is
Um,
next episode?
Land Before Swine.
I
Pterodactyl.
oh, okay. So a pterodactyl kind of okay. So Mabel goes off to buy a thing so she can carry Waddles around. Um, asks Stan to watch him. He puts the pig outside. The pig gets stolen by a pterodactyl. Stan lies about it. Um, they track down the pig, and you know we
The light gets uncovered.
the yeah
Mabel gets
the
angry,
light gets uncovered.
and
Mabel gets angry, and Stan eventually beats the crap out of the
rises.
pterodactyl, and they get the pig back.
Summary of B plot. Obvious is just Seuss and Dipper trying to track down said pterodactyl. Keep failing because of Seuss's incompetence. But Dipper is like, yeah, Seuss can do some good and some bad. I shouldn't be getting angry over him. That's about it.
Yeah, and then you know also, Old Man McGunket is there. He gets eaten, somehow survives. The end. Next episode.
Oh, and I forgot about the ciphers. The deep end is actually in Spanish for long live the pool ducks.
Okay.
Um, oh my god, there's two ciphers in this in Carpet Diem. But who stole the cappers? Bonus: a book titled "Why Am I Sweaty" has a Caesar cipher on it. It reads, "Puberty is the greatest mystery of all. Also, go outside and make friends."
Okay.
Boy Craze is "Happy now, Ariel?"
All right.
Land Before Swine is "It works for pigs."
All right. What's the next one? The next episode.
Ooh, that's ominous. Dreamscapers.
All right. Is this the one where Bill Cipher finally shows up?
Correctamundo.
All right. So we're getting to the end of the season. Nice. Okay. Um, and this is where I'm gonna be talking about law a bit, but hold on a minute. Okay. So Gideon is trying to steal the deed to the Mystery Shack so that he can claim ownership of it. The problem with that is that if you steal a deed, it still doesn't make it yours. Also, Stan's name is clearly still written on the deed, and Gideon's name isn't, so why does everyone just kind of go along with it? Oh, right, the cops are dumb.
Yes. Well, no. Because everyone is under little Gideon's like, oh, he can do no wrong.
Yeah, so there's this whole thing of Gideon had initially summoned Bill Cipher to try to steal the combination to the safe that Stan keeps the deed in, but that doesn't work because the kids fight off Bill Cipher inside Stan's mind, So Gideon blows up the safe with dynamite and steals the Mystery Shack. And we're kind of just going to cover both this episode and the finale because they do bleed into each other very well.
Mm-hmm.
So, when they get out of Stan's...
I should be saying...
What?
Dreamscaper's cipher is to be continued, ...
I mean, that's literally spelled out in English, too, so... But...
It's also the cipher.
Anyway, so the kids defeat Bill Cipher, kind of surprisingly. I actually don't think I saw this episode before today, but I did see the actual finale before today, which is kind of weird. But,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we learned that, Gideon wants the Mystery Shack so he can get the journal that Dipper has. He eventually does and, figures out that, oh, Dipper has journal number 3, so where the hell is journal number 1? Of course, at the end of these episodes, we learn that Stan has it and that he's, obviously he knows more than he's letting on. But eventually, after defeating Bill Cipher, Dipper, Mabel, and Stan, and I think Susan, Wendy too. Wait, no, Wendy only shows up and then leaves because Robbie shows up. Because they broke up earlier this season in an episode I don't remember.
That was the... Wait, did we? No.
We didn't talk about it. We didn't...
Oh, it was Boy Craze.
Okay.
That's B plot and Boy Craze.
Okay. The B plot was far more interesting than the A plot in that episode.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Sometimes that happens. But anyway, yeah, so Wendy's only briefly there, so Seuss, Mabel, Dipper, and Stan eventually manage to steal back the Mystery Shack because Stan figures out that the pins have hidden... Gideon's little pins that everybody's wearing have hidden cameras, and that's how he's been able to fake being a psychic for so long. So he exposes Gideon and steals back the Mystery Shack, and that's roughly the end of the episode. We see, Stan opening a portal, which for some reason, I thought happened much later in the series.
No, he opens the portal, but obviously the portal still needs more work before it gets to full capacity.
Yeah, because, I know at some point there are going to be 3 items that fall through the portal, and those items are going to show up in a Rick and Morty episode, which some argue confirms that Gravity Falls and Rick and Morty are connected.
I can believe it.
Yeah. Gravity Falls is definitively connected to Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Definitively. Because there are some background characters that are confirmed to be the exact same characters that appear in both series. And truly background characters, no speaking lines whatsoever.
Yeah, and there's frog people. Actually, I'll bring this up later.
Yeah. But not only is that the end of the episode, that's the end of the season.
I'll actually leave all of you guys something who may or may not have not known this. This the cipher for this one is search for the blind eye. So I'll leave you with that.
But anyway, I really do enjoy Gravity Falls. I do still think there is too much filler. Just if there's too much sugar in ice cream, you're going to notice it. But if there's not enough, then, it's a problem.
And here, I'm going to argue completely. It's yeah, there's too much sugar in a sugar ice cream. If there's too much salt in a sea salt ice cream. It is a comedy, with a lot of lore. But that comedy still, exists, and that's basically what it is. And that's basically what comedies are. kind of filler.
There's another comedy
I argue.
series that we're going to cover later where they manage to work the comedy in such a way that, like, it doesn't feel like episodes are filler. Um, and the plot is still going on and they can still be funny.
I think that it's not filler. Sorry, it wouldn't be filler if if the characters actually grew from these episodes.
Yeah, like I think I would support it a lot more if the characters actually, properly developed. But they only develop sometimes and in pretty insignificant ways. Most of the time they don't seem to learn anything. And it's upsetting.
But other than that, Gravity Falls is a series of like as I was just mentioning, there is so many Easter eggs in the entire series, so many plot like I forgot references to. It's just full of everything.
I definitely think that Gravity Falls is one of the greatest cartoons ever made. Like, it's easily top 5 cartoons for me. But I do think that both, like, honestly, I think Avatar The Last Airbender, The Legend of Korra, both beat it.
The Legend of Korra is definitely a bit shocking, but that's a discussion for another day.
And maybe The Dragon Prince will
And
too, but The Dragon Prince isn't over yet.
obviously, I my biases with Amphibia probably put it ahead.
And maybe The Owl House will as well, because The Owl House is freaking great. But we'll see how they handle being canceled and having to finish the story in less time than they originally were planning on.
I mean, same for Amphibia. Have to finish. I think they only have season 3, so though I think the original. I did see somewhere on like a post that the original creator always wanted 3 seasons. I don't know how that could just be malarkey, but
But anyway, I guess we can get into rating it. What is your rating?
um, it's a good season. I like the second one more. Base 7.
Yeah, funnily enough, I actually premeditated a 7.0 as well. Like, it is really good, but it's not truly, like, great. There are a lot of problems, namely the filler and the lack of good character development. So, yeah.
And what's amazing about Gravity Falls, the filler, if you look close enough, is like, oh, there's so many secrets in this. It might as well be like the main part of the episode. Gravity Falls loves its secrets.
Yeah. But anyway, I think we do kind of need to be wrapping this up. This is our longest podcast episode ever. We are like literally almost at 2 hours long. Um, so yeah. We will see you guys next month for Camp Season 2. So look forward to that. But to wrap this up, I've been Avery. That's been Lily. You can list
Schmabialock.
Schmapilock. Oh my god. But like, follow our social medias to be notified of new posts. You can listen to us on other platforms other than whichever one you're listening to us on, because we are on like 6 or 7 different platforms at this point. And we will see you next time.
And before we end, I'll have to let you know that. Did you know that there's a Trash 3DS game? Anyway, bye.